Hey guys, Zane here with another one-take review, and today I wanted to talk about the new Wormrot album, Hiss. Hiss is the latest studio album from Singapore-based grindcore band Wormrot. If you aren't familiar with Wormrot, they are easily one of the most well-recognized and well-respected grindcore bands on the scene right now, and without a doubt in my mind, one of the fastest rising, and with praise from pretty major critics, as well as a hugely dedicated fanbase within the more generalized metal and punk scenes. Wormrot have a lot of great things happening in their future, to be sure, and Hiss is another fantastic step in an already legendary career. Hiss is musically incredibly fast, of course, but I mean, this is grindcore. You can't expect anything less than cocaine-influenced levels of speed in this kind of music. If you do, then I don't think you know what grindcore is, to be honest. Now, these high levels of speed can actually be a major flaw in a lot of grindcore bands, songs, albums, etc., just because of the fact that there are a lot of bands out there that will sacrifice uniqueness or technical proficiency for the sake of just being fast. And don't get me wrong, being fast is great, but if you can't back that up with legitimate musical ability, it really serves no purpose in your music or in the musical landscape at the moment, when thousands upon thousands of bands have already broken down the walls of "I play fast" before. That being said, Wormrot do not let the high-octane sound that they belong to hold them back in terms of actual memorability. I mean, riffs change, tempos switch, and vocals even go from guttural bellows to high-pitched screaming and shrieking, both of which sound absolutely fantastic. Tracks like Pale Moonlight even take up a slightly slower and more steady kind of sound that is just as destructive as the incredibly thrashed out kind of tracks that you find on this record and many other grindcore albums, with the same level of power and musical and tonal violence that you would expect from the genre. Perhaps I'm in the minority here, but I personally find that Wormrot's just sort of desire to make all of these different sounds and not just rely solely on thrash-based grindcore instrumentals actually makes them significantly heavier than the vast majority of their peers, who kind of just seem determined to only do one sound and just repeat that over the course of, say, 20 tracks on a 30-minute album. But instead, Wormrot actually want to do something different. They want to do something unique, and while it's not progressive grindcore or anything like that, it's incredibly well-performed grindcore that manages to stand out. Hiss is very tight musically as well, and not once do the band ever fall to the stereotypes of sloppiness that grindcore is, at least to some extent, associated with. This is a fiercely calculated and beautifully executed record that frankly has some great melodies too. Glass Shards and Desolate Landscapes are both among the tracks that you wouldn't think would be particularly memorable from a song progression standpoint, but frankly they are, and those are only two songs on the album. There are a number of tracks here that are distinctly memorable and stand out not only within the world of grindcore in general, but more specifically in this album. You could easily pick apart the two aforementioned songs from one another, or frankly any song from the list of the rest of the songs here, and that's somewhat rare for the sound that Wormrot play. Even the runtime here is perfect, and now I might get some flack for this, but I think even the most hardcore grindcore fans would agree, begrudgingly, but agree nonetheless, that there are times where the genre can grow somewhat tiresome. I mean, don't get me wrong, a long grindcore album is honestly pretty rare, and I mean, this record's barely 30 minutes, and that's progressive rock by grindcore standards. But nonetheless, grindcore albums can go on for your average 40, 45, 50 minutes, and those records tend to just drag on as they serve no purpose, and the blasting energy of them kind of runs out by the halfway point, three-quarter point, or somewhere around there. Again, as I just stated, Hiss is barely 30 minutes long, and instead of just dragging on, it becomes a exercise in violence and self-destruction that really never feels overly long, and certainly never feels like a slog to get through. It is a perfectly lengthened out album. It's just enough to appreciate it from front to back in a full album format without feeling like you need more from Wormrot, but at the same time, it doesn't overstay its welcome to the point that they feel like they begin to lose the same energy and passion by the end of the record. This is a vicious album and a vicious listening experience from front to back, and the length allows that to happen. So overall, Hiss is an absolutely fantastic record and maybe the best Wormrot record so far, and that's saying something because this band do have a lot of fantastic work under their belt already, and honestly, I think that's only a matter of time before they truly get considered grindcore legends at this rate of quality. I'm going to give this album 4.5 stars out of 5. My one take on this album is that Hiss is a brutal and deliciously violent record that never manages to let up in its intensity, further proving that Wormrot are one of the most brilliant and rightfully well-respected bands in grindcore at the moment. So again, 4.5 stars out of 5, and with that being said, that's the end of this review, and I will see you guys in the next one.